Alright, we have some big changes with the forecast models. I should have known better myself than to be posting all this stuff about extreme cold. We're still going to see cold across the US, but things are really going to be different as far as model data is. And I'm going to be a little bit more conservative with actually siding with the model. So let's take a look at the now. The now is Texas here. Look at this. Really ramping up. You see this comma shaped here. Look at the clouds. You can see the radar bands here. Thunderstorm showers across most of Texas. We have some reports of severe thunderstorms along the Texas coast itself and the Louisiana coast. And this will continue to spread northward across the region. You can see we're really in the thick of a lot of rain across Texas, Louisiana, as well as southern Arkansas. And this is going to continue up into the mid-Mississippi River Valley. And we could see a lot of rain out of this system. Up here in the Great Lakes, we have a lot of wind reported. And here in the east, the northeast, we have a system moving out of the area. This is a warm front, and it's actually pushing most of the cold air out of the area. Sorry about that, I had a little technical glitch there. There we go, that's better. Warm front moving through the northeast, and this will continue to push the warm air from the west. Let's take a look at the northwest here. We have the system moving into the northwest, and it will continue to move in. We've got winter storm watches all across the northern plains here, and this is going to set the stage for the cold air Arctic outbreak. Now, I mentioned to you at the beginning of the video that we would not see as much cold air as originally predicted. That is true, but we will still see cold air, and I will show you here. Winter storm watches across most of the northern plains here. Let's take a look at rainfall totals across the southern Mississippi River Valley in eastern Texas. You can see upwards of 3 to 6 inches across the southern Mississippi River Valley, and you can also see across portions of the Ozarks here up and into just south of St. Louis, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rain. So this rain will continue, and the system will continue to push northward. Pacific Northwest, upwards of an inch across just west of the Cascades from Seattle down to Portland, Medford, Eureka, down all the way down to Redding. These areas on westward, the northern Napa Valley. So what do we got going on here in terms of snowfall? Let's take a look at the northern plains. This is where we could see anywhere from a widespread 3 to 6, 4 to 8 inch totals, with 6 to 12 inches across North Dakota, eastern Montana, these areas, southern Canada, Alberta, Manitoba. These areas could see upwards of 6 to 12 inches of snow, with some 4 to 8 being the widespread mainstream snow accumulations. Other than that, there's not much else snow accumulation. We're going to be looking at the warmth across the east. Look at the trough here in the west is still going to dig in, even though the models are predicting warmer temperatures than actually were predicted next week. And the ridge here in the east is this weekend. Take a look at the warm air. The temperatures all the way up to 60, the nation's capital, heading on down towards the lower Ohio Valley and the Mississippi River Valley, and heading on down towards the Carolinas and Florida, could be heading into the 70s. And this warm air builds northward across the mid-Mississippi River Valley and will expand eastward. However, let's take a look at what the systems look like. We will push that warm air out of the picture and replace it with cooler air. And some of the overnight lows could be well below freezing, even along the Gulf Coast next week. And we'll see that system reinforce the cold air as it moves southward. We won't see many systems across especially the northern tier county or states across the United States, but we will see some Alberta-style clipper systems that will drop anywhere from 1 to 2 to maybe 3 inches of snow. Here in the northwest, we'll continue to get a few systems, but not much. The pattern becomes very benign, especially as most of the cold air pushes into the area. And I want to make note, there's going to be a lot of warm air in the stratosphere and the mid-troposphere. This will keep a lot of the instability at a minimum, and that's why with a lot of the colder temperatures, you get stable air. You get warm air at the mid layers, or the mid to upper layers, and that actually shuts off precipitation growth. And that's what we'll see across much of the US next week. Even though it's not going to be quite as cold, you can see we put those maps in motion. You push the cold air off the east coast. It doesn't necessarily get, we still have some 40s here in the south, but across the northern tier states you see most of the cold air, the bitter cold, minus 30, minus 40 degree air, stays north of the U.S. Canadian border, and that's going to hold true pretty much through the end of January. Let's take a look at the NAO index. That is showing that most of the NAO index will stay. Some of the models are taking it positive, some of it are taking it negative, as you can see, but for the most part we'll actually, what my thought is, we'll actually break even or just slightly go negative. But you notice there's not a lot of gyrations with this. This means that there won't be any major storm growth in many of the systems. So don't expect any major blockbuster type systems through the end of January. We'll probably have to save that through the end, towards the beginning to middle to latter part of February. So that's what we have going on here. Let's look at the setup. The jet stream, this jet stream that I have here will be actually a little bit from yesterday. If some of you watched yesterday's video, I pushed the jet stream further north this time. It's not going to be as further south, but it will still move up the east coast. We'll still get cold air bleeding into places like Portland, Medford, Seattle. But the one thing is, we will still have a lot of cold air across the nation. It's just not going to be minus 30, minus 40. We might see that up in Minneapolis, on northward into North Dakota, Fargo, places like that. But it's not going to be the widespread like we thought, especially the GFS and the Euro models were indicating yesterday. They've completely done a 180 on us today. But I'm not going to completely swing the other direction too, like the models are indicating. Some of the models are indicating a warming trend here. I'm not jumping on that bandwagon either. So we're going to continue to show much of the nation under colder conditions than normal. The 32-degree line will stretch from northern North Carolina through Tennessee, some of the northern areas of Mississippi, Alabama, southern Arkansas, and just, you know, north of Dallas for daytime highs, that is, and the 32-degree line stretches and snakes out towards the west coast here. That's kind of what we're looking at across most of the country, and across most of the, you'll see, we will have a blocking pattern for the NAO, but it will be a little bit weaker than we originally thought. So a lot of systems will be allowed to, at least through the end of January, push out to sea, and Alberta-style clipper systems with the polar jet will continue to pinwheel around the Great Lakes, but this will keep most of the coldest air bottled up just north of the U.S.-Canadian border through the end of January. February might be a different story here. So that's what we've got going on here. That's the scenario. I'm meteorologist Mark Molnar. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at MeteoMark. That's where I have a lot of my micro updates in between videos. If I don't post a video for a certain period of time, I have micro updates. As you can see, this is my Facebook page for MeteoMark. I do micro updates that can range anywhere from a couple hours to, say, a day or two. But most of the time I update anywhere from 2 to 3 hours a day. In between. And I have a subscription here on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to us. And here's a 4-day forecast for my hometown viewers from Binghamton to Elmira. And this is also for the northern tier counties of Pennsylvania.